The Night Kids love smashing expensive race cars into guardrails. Whether it be because of a skill issue or the intent to take somebody's life, these cars never escape a downhill race guardrail free. So let's go in depth on the vehicles of their top 2 drivers. Takeshi Nakazato as the leader of the Night Kids does not get the recognition he deserves, I think. He might have lost every single on-screen race he was part of, but within the universe he was still considered a very strong driver. Partially because of his car, but not entirely. He was already one of the best at m.o.v.e with his S13. But yeah, the Skyline GTR did help him become undefeatable on that mountain, for a while at least. So let's talk about that car.
The R32 is 40,640mm long and 1,720mm wide.
In other words, the car is a 1994 Nissan Skyline GTR V-Spec 2 with chassis code BNR32. The V-Spec, which stands for Victory Specification, 1 and 2 were introduced after the GTR's success in Group N and Group A racing. The V-Spec models included a lightweight bonnet and front bumper from Enigma models, as well as changing the wheels out from 16-inch to 17-inch BBS wheels. The V-Spec 2 was introduced in 1994 and ran for 10 months, before the R32 stopped production in late 1994. Of course, Nakazato did not leave this car in its stock form. The BBS wheels were replaced with Workmeister S13P wheels. On the inside, the car is controlled by an ATC Racing Sprint R steering wheel and Lonza pedals, while the driver sits in a Pride racing seat strapped into an aftermarket red seat harness. In combination with the Nismo gauge cluster, a Blitz 1.5 bar boost gauge was installed. This boost gauge is used to read the pressure from the twin turbo system that is installed on the RB26 DETT that came with the GTR. Naturally, this engine is also not going to be left stock. It has a Sport ECU, an air filter, racing spark plugs, a triple plate clutch, an overwritten computer, an oil cooler and a wastegate. All of this combined with a 90mm stainless steel muffler creates a max output of about 380 horsepower, and this 380 horsepower would later be up-tuned to almost 400 horsepower to battle Kasuke Takahashi on the m.o.v.e uphill. Of course, on the rear side windows of this car you can find the Night Kids stickers. In the 1998 anime adaptation these would be the only stickers on the car, but in the original manga the car also had a few brand stickers on its door. Sadly, there is never a point where these are clear enough to make out what brands they could be. Where we can read them, however, is in the Legend trilogy. New Initial D, the movie, also known as the Legend trilogy, is a set of movies made in 2014 set out to re-adapt the first 4 races of the manga with modern animation. They also made everyone incredibly hot and muscular for some reason. Like, I ain't gay, but goddamn! Anyway, from sexy dudes back to sexy cars, in these movies we can see the brand stickers for Speed Maniac, Lap Leader, Composite Master and Finish Line on Nakazato's door. Something else that these movies did was change the team logos, and uniquely for Nakazato, change the location of the team stickers. In the 1998 anime the stickers were located on the rear side windows, but here they have been moved to the rear fenders. There is one more iteration of this car. The one from the 2005 Hong Kong live-action movie. The car in this movie is just a bone stock BNR32 Nismo spec with Yokohama AVS V6 wheels. This is an interesting choice in terms of wheels. Every other iteration of the car had 5-spoke wheels, but this one has 6-spoke wheels. In this movie, Nakazato also drifts instead of using his usual gripping style of driving. Nakazato believed that grip was the superior way of racing on the Toge, and deep down, we all know he was right. This ideology was one of the big reasons he bought the GTR in the first place. That, and also his loss to Eikichi Shimamura in a white R32 on his home course of Miyoki. Drifting would be incredibly difficult in the 4-wheel drive Skyline, especially with that Altezza system. Altezza stands for Advanced Total Traction Engineering System for All-Terrain, or in other words, it's a 4-wheel drive system that electronically regulates the amount of torque split across the center differential. TLDR, car has more grip in corner, which is nice and all, but please just try to keep your front tires in check if you are using this type of grip toge racing. And with that, I think I have said everything there is to say about this car. If there is anything I missed, please let me know.
Initial D. Initial D.
Shingo Shoji is a murderer, and his weapon of choice is a Honda Civic. After Nakazato embarrassed himself as the leader of the Night Kids, Shingo wanted to take his place, and to do that he challenged the 8-6 of Akina to a downhill battle in his EG6. So let's talk about that car. The car is a Milano red Honda Civic SIR2 with chassis code EG6. The EG part of that chassis code indicates that the car is a 5th gen hatchback, and the number 6 indicates that the car is a VTI trim. The VTI trim had the B16A2, a dual overhead cam engine. The B16 also had a VTEC. VTEC stands for Variable Valve Timing and Lift Electronic Control. Dear Honda, this is not how acronyms work. Alright, so VVTLEC stands for Variable Valve Timing and Lift Electronic Control. In other words, it's a system that switches to a bigger camshaft profile once the engine reaches a certain RPM to let more air into the combustion chamber. Of course, Shingo did not leave this EG6 stock. As a big Mugen fan, he installed a Mugen steering wheel, sports pedals and bucket seat with a black aftermarket harness. Underneath the car you can find a set of Mugen R&R wheels in black with a red stripe. And behind those wheels you can find a set of aftermarket yellow brake calipers. Luckily for Shingo, the only other body modification he applied to the car was a custom front lip, because the entire front of the car got almost entirely wrecked after he tried to annihilate Takumi with his double crash. Something else that probably did not survive the trademark Night Kids guardrail crash was the B16 engine. This engine had a heightened compression ratio, balanced pistons and conrods, a lightened flywheel and a sports ECU. The exhaust gases from this will be sent through an exhaust manifold and a 70mm sport muffler to create a max output of about 185 horsepower. This might not seem like a whole lot of power, but keep in mind that a stock Civic only weighs in at about 1080 kilograms. So on a downhill race where weight matters a lot, this car was an extremely solid choice. And unlike some old mistranslations of the manga may suggest, this EG6 does in fact have a manual gearbox and not an automatic. Just like with Nakazato's R32, you can find the Night Kids Team stickers on the rear windows of this car. You can also find a copy of that sticker on the rear windshield. Other stickers you can find on this car are brand stickers for Spoon, 5-Zigen, a Blank Oval and Grady. These brands were parodied as Special, 5-Ring, Quick and Trapper in the 1998 anime adaptation, and then got parodied again as other brands in the Legend trilogy. In his attempt to beat Takumi, Shingo proposed a duct tape deathmatch, also known as a The duct tape deathmatch is a gimmick where both drivers tape their right hand to the steering wheel, causing them to only be able to corner using advanced drifting techniques. In addition to that, it's also a driving style that heavily favors the FF layout of Shingo's EG6. It just so happens to be that I also drive an FF. This whole duct tape deathmatch thing can't be that hard, right? Thank you very much for watching until the end of this video. It was a collection of my 2 previous videos because those were pretty short and fit together pretty well. So I thought, why not combine the 2 into one big video covering both cars.